So you guys might have seen the video that I posted a little bit earlier on of where I am having a discussion, or what looked like a debate, but it was more of a discussion with someone who was a Catholic, who is now going through the rites. She is going through her initiation for to becoming a Sangoma, and so, or to be rightly put within like alignment with idlozi and so forth and all that kind of stuff. And so this is that discussion, in case you missed it. And so I wanted to explain this particular discussion, but also what to expect going forward. And so in that discussion, there's a lot of things that she said we never got to answer. I want to explain why that might happen and so forth. And so for some people, they might have a lot more questions after seeing some of those questions that she raised that we never actually got to actually answer. And so how did the conversation come about? Some of the questions that we answered, some of the questions that she still had and that she might still hold even after. And so thought, let me come back here, come in and actually give a little bit of a commentary on it. It's the Actuality Show, the daily Christian commentary videos. If it's the first time over here to be sure, check out the other videos that are down in the pinned comments, and I'm going to see you over there. Now, so this discussion was a very broad subject, but it came up in the discussion which I was having with Mkhulu Matlatabane, when we were talking about are you hearing the voice of God and all that. If you remember that particular subject, she had come with it. And so this was not made to be an individual subject. It wasn't meant to be an individual subject. That's why when we queued in the video, when I played in the video, I showed her coming in as a break. Okay? And so Kulubatlabatlaban asked if we are going to do a break. And if we are going to do a break, we had been talking with her. And so she had questions that she had raised. And so we thought, okay, no, come in. Let's make it a discussion. And so initially I had put this video for Sake of Truth. And I thought Sake of Truth would upload it. And so I'm not sure if she's having issues with her internet or something, but she hadn't managed to actually upload the video after a few weeks. So I uploaded it because there is conversations that I want to have about that video going forward. And so I hope she will still manage to actually upload the video on her channel. And so there was a particular point, there was a lot of points that she pointed out, but the reasons for departure from the Christian faith. And so she puts it out as dogma. You'll hear her label the entire Christian thing as just dogma. But dogma goes everywhere. To every single thing that they actually we practice on this planet, there is dogma to it. For instance, people have a problem, like in Christianity, they have a lot of problems with referencing religion. And religion in itself, or the subject matter of religion in itself, is not a bad thing. It describes the actions and the mannerisms and attitude that one has taken on to a certain discipline. That's what it describes. And if you want to see this, that religion is not bad, particularly described for a Christian, James talk about it. And he says, good religion is this. And then he labels out the things. It's the visiting of those that are in need, taking care of those that are homeless, and all that. He names it out. He labels it out. So you'll have to go check that verse out, because the way James puts it out, he labels it to show that we understand that religion in itself is not a bad thing. Because religion, all it means, because I see Christians, they like playing football, dribbling tactics. No, Christianity is not a religion. It's a lifestyle. Yeah, but in itself, religion in itself is mannerisms and practices that one has taken on towards a certain lifestyle. That's all it is. That's all it describes. Yes, within religion, there are certain practices that people have taken on that they might not fully ascribe to. So when we say Christianity is not just a religion, it's a lifestyle, we mean that we partake in that very thing. So when we say Christian, being that one is as character seeks to emulate that of his master. Therefore, Christianity is not a religion, it's a lifestyle. So, but it's describing the same thing. A person who made this particular statement out to say Christianity is not a thing, it describes the same thing. What you're describing what religion is in itself, is that it dictates how a person behaves at one point compared to the other. When the Bible says, love thy neighbor, by this will they know that you are his followers. I think it's 1 John. He is giving you how a Christian's mannerisms is towards those that might be hateful towards them. And so in that, therefore, it creates a certain environment. Nowadays, we've created alternative versions of Christianity. There is the version that has come with prophetic movements and all these things, and all people just claim to be prophets. People basically going out and claiming one gift over the other. People that speak on the subject matter of having prophesied or revealed something, witchcraft or something like that, and stuff like that. And this has brought in another version of religion, because it then dictates your relationship with your neighbor differently compared to what the Bible says. Okay? Because if your neighbor is being labeled a witch, there is no interaction at that point. You know? And so if there is no interaction, we can see in the story of Simon the sorcerer, there is no conviction, because it is because he is in the presence of Christians who are going to rebuke him that he will understand that your actions are actually contrary to that which we personally ascribe to. So this discussion comes where she's offloading a lot of the issues that she has with Christianity. She labels some of the ideals that might, it's very popular in debate, particularly the point of the Mary being a virgin, that all it means is that it's maiden. It does not exactly mean, does it not mean penetration or whatnot and stuff. That's a debate that's been had. And so once I pointed out that I did understand that particular topic, I don't know everything, but that particular debate, I know that debate because I've heard those debates, particularly when I used to listen to when I was a Catholic, and I used to hear debates, particularly with people who were non-Catholic or non-Christian as well. So atheists would point that way, but it's mostly people that have done textual criticism that actually question that, because they are trying to find a way around it. So now, how I answered that, I answered the root of the issue that's not been dealt with by looking at questioning the wording in it. So I took an apologist route on answering that question. So does the word actually mean? That's the question. The question is, does the word actually mean she's a virgin? My answer to it is, if it does not mean. So that's a way an apologist, if you go to Apologetics 101, basically, it's answer the mindset. So that there's no question that comes after that, because I've answered why it has to be that, why it has to be maiden, meaning never touched. Okay? Pure, completely pure, without being touched by a man. Because she says it even in her wedding. She says, because I have never known a man. And the idea of knowing a man implies interaction, particularly of partnership within marriage and so forth, sexual in nature. And so in that there, you are answering the mindset that comes with it, to say, if it doesn't mean maiden, it creates a problem, because the prophecy implies purity over the man, not carrying original sin. And so that's what I'm bringing in when you hear me answering that. And so it does definitely, it makes a person either accept it or reject it. It's just that. So basically, I'm bringing a person to really answer, what exactly do you believe? Because it has to be that wording particular. So just in case you're wondering, I answered that way, that particular way on there. Now, again, the setting of this discussion was not prepared. So there wasn't an exact thing that we had prepared to discuss. There wasn't. These were just questions that come up. Now, this is exactly what I always advise Christians to do. Always go learn, study, understand how to answer certain things. My channel is it's a hub basically to see different answers for different questions. And so when the Bible says always be ready to give an answer for the hope that is in you, that's exactly what you saw me doing there. Okay? I don't need the question to rise before I have an answer. So for some of these questions, you can go out there, learn what kind of questions people will ask you, and then you are ready to have an answer. That's a very random one. And I can tell you now, in 10 years of me doing apologetics, I've never had someone bring it up. I've never had someone bring it up. And it was the only time someone brought it up was when we were having the discussion right there. And so it looks like, why am I going to learn this? Why am I going to? But it's useful because you are ready. So when the Bible says always be ready to have an answer for those that ask you of the hope that is in you, I'm just spreading out the wording in that verse. That's not exactly the way it quotes. But that's what you saw there, is that sometimes you don't deem certain things important. You study them, you have an answer for it, but then in time, that might be very useful. Doesn't look important, but that's a classic right there. And so that answer, that's why I phrase that answer in that way, is because it questions belief above just quoting verses to answer. And also because she has many questions, right? It helps answering that way because I might not get a chance to ask or to answer with a second verse. I might quote one verse and I want to go to another verse. So in that instance, it helps having a quick answer. So the question of purity of Messiah is quite an important one. And so that's why that thing was thinking. Now, there was many other questions that she raised. She also raised the subject matter of women, God being a little bit misogynistic, meaning not allowing women to take things. And Christine actually answered this by saying it's a subject matter of roles. God used the role of man to lead the church the same way we see in Timothy. God he labels it out that it is the man who is head over his house who will know how to be a leader in the church. And so the subject matter of coming up with a bishop's position, you hear that particular tone in there, that if one cannot deal with the matters of his household, how does he deal with matters of the church? And so that contrast right there, you can see where it comes in to be important there. And so that particular question, there is a lot we could have reference to, but in a quick answer on this one, I would just like to note something. If a person doesn't understand the roles that God put before, they will have an issue with a lot of things. Why did he use this person, not use this one? It's because you're speaking within a political state of things where equity, where having equal voices is now a subject. God doesn't think like that. This is human thinking, because we're trying to accommodate, a certain man who was pressured by his wife. So he put it forward so that they could have that conversation. And so I'm glad she brought that subject up of being direct. It's God who's misogynistic. Otherwise, why didn't he use the women as much as he did with the men? Now, this subject, it's quite interesting because it pulls from that. And what it brings you to reconciling. God is the one who decides. Okay? God is not thinned down into this version of morality that we now have, where Mbogoto is a thing, feminisms and what, and all those things. And so God doesn't think like that. God is not here to nurture emotions of people and stuff like that. God decides what this is. So God, God is not here to nurture emotions. I'm just going to leave it there. God structures how things should be and he leaves them like that. We follow that. So it's not like Christianity is misogynistic. Now, there are a lot of churches that want to now look politically okay. Yeah, you're not doing yourself a favor. If you choose that, you choose that for you, okay? Choose that for you. Like I've said that before. If a church says that they have women pastors and so forth, because, within the political space where we are right now, the whole thing of everybody being able to do, that was not the subject in the Bible. The Bible was not trying to say, trying to make sure, it's not BEE. It's not, let's make sure that these ones also have a voice. That's not what God decided this person is the one that thing. Now, I think also something that Tamara once mentioned when we were in a discussion, being it that the people that actually think it was not a public discussion, it was in our own private studies. And she mentioned the people that she's noticing God chose were people that actually chose him as well. Going back to that particular tone of God loving one over the other or against the other. She pointed that out in one of the discussion, and I mentioned it in the previous one, that the people that if you look at it, the people that God chose, it's also people that were actually choosing God themselves. So they had made the decision, conscious decision in following God. So that's another thing that comes in. So there's a lot there that we dealt with, and I think with time, it helps having time to have this type of conversations, because a lot of people don't know that there is answers for these things, and so if one is making preference for one against the other, it helps to notify them. Now, you choosing the political, which is a very current thing. The whole thing of politics and equity and women having a voice and stuff. It's a current thing. It's a political conversation. It's a politically correct. That's not the Bible. So to try and infuse those current state of thinking into the Bible, you're doing yourself disservice. And so I thought that was also very interesting to have a conversation about. But also the use cases of women in the Bible, which she spoke about. Why is it like only women are used for this? No, it's that the role that they carry. I like what Christine actually said. She said, is to embrace. The thing that to take here is that to embrace that role, because if we don't embrace that role, we then covet the other's role. And I brought up the subject matter of the Garden of Eden and said, in the Garden of Eden, that's the issue, is that Eve wanted to take the position of Adam in roles, and that created a problem in there. It's just food. It looks like, oh no, wait, nowadays women decide what we are eating at home. Yeah, it's not just that day. In that particular context, it's the man who was responsible for the wife. She was a help to him. And so she probably should have been with him by the time. She would have not had these temptations and stuff like that. It is the man that was responsible for the house. And so therefore, in that case, thinking about the case, not thinking politics now, thinking about the case in the Bible, it's clear then that the man is the one that would have decided this. Because being it that Adam knew what was food, Adam was clear on where. Adam was the one who instructed her. Adam had full context of thinking. And so the idea of poisonous food, you can actually put it to say maybe there was poisonous foods only after the fall and so forth. That's a discussion of a different time. But also, being it that Adam was the one that knew and thinking, and the woman was there to help. I'm going to make you a help meet for you. And so Adam in himself was not complete. He still needed a help meet. And so it's accepting that role, because it creates problems, even in companies. If you think about it, even in companies, it's accepting the role and embracing the role, and not to compete with the boss, not to compete with the CEO, not to compete with the accounting department. You don't know it all, you don't do it all. Okay, you know what you know, you stick to that, you embrace that role. It's all roles. And so a great conversation. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things that she mentioned that we didn't have time to actually go into. But when you would have heard her commenting particularly about the Muslim part there when the conversation started. So that part, unfortunately, we had talked about it before the camera had started. And so she was pointing out the issue of saying, I had actually said Muhammad in 600 AD, right? After Jesus, 600 years later after Jesus had come, Muhammad then confirms the Bible and says the text that the Jews have and the Christians have, it's legit. And so if the text that Muhammad himself, not being a Christian, says that it's thinking, the idea that they corrupted it, it came after. It wasn't necessarily the thing that was actually majority written. I don't think it's actually even hardly written in thinking. The idea that they corrupted it actually came after. And so he confirmed it to be right at that point. And also we still have the original manuscripts, and people that have done textual criticism have actually said that the text that they had back then is the same text that we see today. And so then we have all these lost manuscripts and manuscripts that are actually found that actually do agree rightly with the ones that we had. And being it how many? Over 5,000 manuscripts that actually confirm the New Testament, the New Testament King James Version. And so that's what you had there in the beginning. And so it was a very broad conversation, but this conversation will have them as we go on. We sometimes get too used to talking, but I think it's time now we go out. We've been talking, studying, learning, and now it's time to go out. Let's hear that. Let's hear these questions, and let's talk to the questions directly. The same reasons why I am talking to Mkhuluma. It's that we have questions. We see the issues, so we are now addressing them directly with the people that believe these things. So I thought these conversations are very important, and also we might be having a very fresh up direction from 2024. And so it's quite interesting that this is where we are also starting up that conversation. Y'all have a good one. I'll see you on later on. If you haven't seen the discussion, it'll be down in the pinned comments. It's Ricky, and y'all have a good one. Salute.